Welcome to the bold analysis. I know in this channel I have some ex-military guys here, and I posed a question to one person here is, we've always been at these situations where the tempers are high, and way back, some 15 years ago, the country sank to its lowest. By that time, he was in forces. And then 10 years ago, in 2017, the country nearly sank to its lowest. But at what point should the military come in? And he actually affirmed to me that our opinions are normally divided in terms of the threshold of a crisis, of an internal crisis that calls for intervention of the men in uniform. And that split that is normally being witnessed in such crises is because there is a lot of discussion into what happens when the military intervenes or who takes over. They can always take over. When they take over, they can choose to hand over, organize an election after some time, or they can choose to take power from the political players, and rule. Of course, in our situation, the question is so clear, and the writing is on the wall that we are dealing with a bunch of leaders, both from the political divide, that are not really, no one is willing and ready to budge. And despite of the opinions that are divided in terms of the threshold of an internal crisis, the truth of the matter here is the police, we have seen police being overwhelmed. We've also police being part of a discussion on people asking, are they not affected by the cost of living? And so, I have a very informed position that I want to look at here. If the leadership has failed, then despite of the military split, it is time for them to get involved. It is time for them to come and solve the equation. And they want to support that argument with these 4 reasons. Kindly subscribe to our channel, click the notification bell, and like our video. Thank you very much for those who are supporting this podcast, and I'm grateful for your support towards these productions. And the military, I am getting convinced that should actually be involved in averting what, according to me, is a crisis that everyone doesn't want to think or is arrogantly or ignorantly trying to dodge. It's the deadly demos. We have lost 23 people so far. These are good young Kenyans. We have also seen people being maimed, injuries inflicted, and with that, we've also seen our economy being battered, or rather being butchered. It is being butchered by the protests that, according to me, can actually shut the economy. And so that is why I believe Ruto is blaming Uhuru Kenyatta for the protest. And if Ruto is blaming Uhuru Kenyatta, Ruto is the current commander-in-chief, and the previous commander-in-chief was Uhuru Kenyatta. So who else in this country is going to mediate between the two gentlemen? Let's try to get it. I saw, I think, a press briefing by our UDMP, I think Nelson Belgut MP, saying that Uhuru Kenyatta is unhappy that Raila Odinga did not win, that Raila Odinga defeated him. Now, I've always been saying, if it is about being unhappy, that was way back, election we did last year in September, and things have been going on. So how heartless can Uhuru be that is still holding a grudge against William Ruto, even 9 months later and is sponsoring those protests simply because he's unhappy? Does just the issue of unhappiness, emotional sadness, emotional discomfort really create such a high volatile protest? And so, if it is indeed true, the way UDA MPs are saying that Uhuru Kenyatta is fighting William Ruto, then truth be told, us as Kenyans, we are powerless. The ranks of Uhuru and Ruto were that at one point, they were actually, both of them have been commander-in-chief. And remember, this is a president that left power, and after leaving, his deputy grabbed power from him. So these are people that have been at the center of power. You know, they've been at the center of power for the last 10 years. So if indeed it is true, because number one, Uhuru Kenyatta cannot be arrested. I stand to be corrected. Someone may gonna correct me. I don't think he can be arrested. And no one is willing to give evidence. The whole of this is just hula baloo. I'll give it, I'll say, I'll forward to the investigation agencies and this and that. If this indeed is the problem, that Uhuru Kenyatta is the problem, and so Kenyans are just a subject of another bigger project, then we need to look for Uhuru Kenyatta and William Ruto, and the only people that can then take over from them. It is about grabbing power. If Kenyans are dying because Uhuru wants to grab power, then why don't military take over? And the second question, or the second issue where I'm waiting that, we are yelling and shouting on top of our cast that Uhuru wants to topple Ruto, but locally here, no one seems to have a solution. Uhuru is a former president. Uhuru is a high-ranking member. Uhuru now is playing international game. And William Ruto has also declined that we don't want foreigners in our country to mediate. If you're fighting with your former boss and you don't want foreigners to intervene, then the military should take over because you also don't want a solution. Do you want to tell me that if Uhuru has a problem with Ruto, can Raila intervene and help? Can Raila help to intervene between Uhuru and Ruto? Or can maybe head of Citizen TV, I saw someone saying that Uhuru and Raila should be brought up and should be brought together. And so, if this problem is between Ruto and Raila, Ruto and Uhuru, then you also don't want foreigners to come and intervene. In Kenya here, no one in this country can summon Uhuru and Ruto. If the problem is between the two of you, and you don't want foreigners to come, some UN diplomats or foreign envoys to come and solve this equation, then the military should take over, because it only shows that William Ruto is not interested in ceasefire. That's my second position, why, despite of the split opinion on what exactly should be done, we should actually think about military. Number three, the discussion about political compromise has been watered down by hardline stance. As we have said, lower they have affirmed, lower the cost of living, forget about handshake. William Ruto has asked, Raila Odinga wants handshake, I'm not going to go for handshake. Now, a political compromise as we speak cannot even, the whole thing is a political aggression, but a political compromise cannot pick it. Let me say, and let me explain it this way, that those that have always simplified this issue as 1, 2, 3, that give Raila a UN job, give Raila some chase cars, give Raila his salary, a monthly salary, and give political parties to the party, and you're done with Raila. But then, even if you do that, but the cost of living is still high, then Raila decides to sit back, then some Ekuru court or some other activist somewhere try to mobilize Kenyans that the cost of living is high, and Kenyans go angry. Or you get Raila and then hike inflation to an extent that things are not going on right. What exactly will happen? What exactly will happen? Political compromise has become a problem because everyone is having a hardline stand. We don't have a political compromise because the whole thing is a political process. It has failed. Let's bring the military. Lastly, we are slowly sliding into some humanitarian crisis. We are slowly sliding into that. And we need to think about penetration of goods to the people. When I say we are sliding into, there is some humanitarian crisis we are sliding into. Imagine 4 days if disruptions are there and there is no flow of goods. Yes. Imports from the airport, imports from abroad, from Mombasa port to Malaba, or rather to Kisumu, to other places. If the lorries are not moving and they're supposed to take their goods, what exactly is happening? We have imported maize we're importing, we're supposed to have them, they're supposed to get to the people. The shops are closed, people cannot access supermarkets because people are protesting for 3 consecutive days. What are we going to see? We are slowly sliding into a humanitarian crisis. And that is why I insist with military, they will actually help to quell. I don't think the approach that government has taken is geared towards, or rather they are so interested in getting a solution. And if they have a solution, then they have a weak position on getting a solution. So I understand this could be, I don't know how many people need, I don't know how many days it needs to be done or how many people needs to, because we cannot continue chest thumping and creating blames each other while the good Kenyans here are suffering. So we need a solution. If the political players in the front line cannot offer solution and bring ceasefire, then the most decent thing and honorable thing is to hand over the country to the military. That's my take.